Okay, I think we can start with summarizing the results of the different task force groups, and I would like to start with task force 1, dealing with, as you know, with identification of non-wood forest products and the ecology of production of those products. Just some information about the composition of the group. As you can see from the number of countries, Europe was quite well represented, except from the boreal zone. Some people were missing because they are, as you may know, celebrating Yohani, and then of course it's more important than anything else. And when it comes to the special knowledge available in the group, you see also that we covered most of the non-wood forest products. Maybe we should have a little bit more representatives from the berry production and products from animal origin, but we had participants from all groups, so actually we were in a quite good shape to do our work. Let's first talk about this question of identification of non-wood forest products. And the key question is which non-wood forest products are important, because we cannot cover all forest products, non-wood forest products that exist somewhere in Europe. So we have to find somehow criteria. And we propose the following criteria: the frequency of occurrence, the values, the economical, commercial value of importance, and also to some extent availability of knowledge. So the main criteria is the current and potential commercial use, but we don't want to include only the current, we also want to look in the future. So the innovative approach to potential use in the future should be even highly emphasized. That is really the added values that we can do within our tasks. And other questions that we are not yet totally sure that maybe needs to be discussed further: non-tangible benefits to the society, like recreational values and so on, because we talk mainly about the commercial value up to now, and my question is whether we should ignore those other values or how should we integrate them. So further criteria for selection of the non-wood forest products are the spatial scale within countries, but also within Europe, the commercial but also the private use. And of course we would like to emphasize the monetary value. Then we have these aspects of legal or illegal harvest of those products, which may vary between countries. And there is also a dynamic over time that is true for the occurrence. For instance, with the truffle, I gave you an example yesterday, that all of a sudden we realized that truffles grow in temperate zone, which was not known, or at least common knowledge in the past. And we are not sure whether this is a change of ecological conditions or changes just in our way of knowledge, of our knowledge of the existence. And then when it comes to these commercial values, there is also fluctuations in demands. Demands are not always the same. There are changes over time. And also when it comes to the growing conditions, there may be effects of climate change, but also effects of pollutions on the site conditions. So when we go further into the question, how should we collect the products, makes a list of identification of non-wood forest products, we think that we would need a template. And this template would be a key basis for our future work. And that's why this template has to be developed in a sound way. And it cannot be just developed by one person. Maybe we could develop a first draft, and then we would circulate this draft to the different working groups, and also to all participants that we don't overlook anything. And this template should be well structured and should be then the base for gathering the information. So it should have somehow a standardized format, should be easy and simple to fill. We are thinking about, for instance, drop-down menus, so that the people that provide the information can see what we mean by asking the information, and they can select what is the most appropriate according to their knowledge and conditions. And this kind of structured template helps us also, of course, to compile the data on a European scale. Ideally, such a template should be internet-based, and so that it can be easily filled in by the different country representatives. That is a little bit our dream, how it could look like. Whether we can accomplish it or not, that is something we need to discuss with the coordinators and see. But it's just an idea how to get this information in a good way. Now let's talk a little bit about the second task of this task force, and that is ecology of the non-wood forest production. And there we have to think about site conditions. That is a key question. And then we can go from a big scale from the climatic zones, let's say from the boreal zone, temperate zone, Mediterranean zone, to more local condition. Then we should describe the site by the vegetation type, by the climate conditions, and by the soil conditions. And as we discussed in our group, we also should take care of the dynamic of changes, for instance, nitrogen input or changes in temperature and precipitation regime. Second would be the cohabitating species that may vary depending on what non-wood forest products we look at. So there can be symbiosis with other plants or parasitism with other plants. And we have to think about the stand type, which is different from the vegetation type we talked before. So stand type would be more the composition of the stand. And then we are already at a forest structure. And here the species composition is relevant, the species itself, but also the mixture with other species. Second point would be the density of the forest, the vertical structure of the forest, the age structure of the forest, and also maybe other aspects like dead wood in the forest, disturbance regimes like fire regimes, and former land use or actual current land use, for instance, grazing, is of course of some relevance. And then coming to the output. So there are two main outputs. One is a database and the other is a chapter in a book. And when it comes to the database, I already discussed the problem of how we should select the list. And even then further, we have to think about how to structure the list of non-wood products. And that is really the challenge. To make a list, including everything that is difficult, but still not really a scientific challenge, but then to put it in a logical structure, that is then the real scientific work to it, to structure it in such a way that we can distinguish between relevant and not relevant forest products and puts them somehow in a logical structure. And I come back to this template question, and based on this template, we think that we can develop such a database. And the second part is in the book chapter. We talked only little about it, but our aim is to provide at the next meeting already a first idea about how the book chapter should be structured, what should be the content. And well, that is more or less what we have discussed. So if you have any question at this point in time, or if some of the task group members have something to add, this would be the time now.